Okay, we're good to go.
Okay, the time is now 6 p.m. on November 17th, 2020. Now I'll call this regular meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the
flag
of the
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under
God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lofgren.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ott.
Here.
Trustee Kimmerly.
Here.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Here.
Trustee Strock.
Present.
Trustee Westcott.
Here.
Thank you.
Everyone is present except for Trustee Morris, who has resigned from the board. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Trustee Ott and a second from Trustee Jeffrey. All in favor, or actually roll call, please.
Trustee Kimmerly. Trustee Kimmerly.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Strock.
Aye.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion carries 6-0. The agenda is approved. The next item on the agenda is audience business. Did we have any emails or any other input tonight, Linda?
We did not. I didn't receive anything.
Okay, and I'm checking, and it doesn't look like, oh, we do have an attendee. There is an attendee. Do you want to check and see if that person has comments?
Let's see what's the. Yes, we will. Let me just, sorry, I have to scoot over. That's the last 4 digits.
Okay.
Will you unmute them? Oh, it's Steve. Okay, hold on. Steve is calling me.
No problem.
Okay, as whoever is the attendee with the last 4 digits of a phone number 7446, can you just let me know if you're here to speak on the agenda or participate in the meeting or just here to listen?
Apparently just here to listen.
Okay, and then I just need to, if you could keep going, I just need to get Steve the link again, so sorry.
Yep, I was just going to say, I don't think I checked to see if Steve was here, but I don't think he is. Okay, and then I saw Trustee-elect White is on too. Is there anything you wanted to add for audience business tonight?
No, nothing at this time. Thank you.
Okay. And then with that, I will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. For the benefit of the audience, tonight's items on the consent agenda are the November 17th, 2020 payment approval report in the amount of $145,059.07 and the October 20th, 2020 minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion from Trustee Jeffrey and a second from Trustee Westcott. Roll call, please.
Okay. Sorry. Trustee Ott.
I'm going to abstain since I was absent on the 20th.
Okay. Trustee Strock.
Aye.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Trustee Kimmerly.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion carries 5 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstention. Next item on the agenda is the action item 7A of the professional service agreement for the wastewater master plan, and we probably need to wait to see if Steve's got it yet.
Yeah, let me see if he ended up getting that.
I see him, but he's muted. Steve, you're muted. So I was expecting Wayne and Amy to be here, but so as you know, the board, we have done a request for proposals to prepare a wastewater master plan, which that has not been done in a number of years. So we did receive proposals, and we had an interview team. We interviewed 2 firms, and based on those interviews and the services provided, we have recommended we select Aqua, who is also teaming up with Martin & Martin for that project. And you do have a copy of their professional services agreement in your packet, and you have an AIS from Wayne and I that we submitted. Well, let me get to that here.
And Steve, if I could just add to that, because that agreement was still being negotiated even over the weekend. And so last night I sent an updated version of that agreement to the board by email cover with explaining just what the major changes were. One was that it included an additional amount on the cap, compensation cap, to cover reimbursable expenses. But I understand that just from today, Wayne was able to reach out to them and they pulled that back. And so the motion that we're looking for tonight would actually be to approve that professional services agreement for the wastewater utility master plan in an amount not to exceed $155,500, not the $160,000 that's in the draft that you last received last night. And I apologize for the ongoing nature of those negotiations. It's just been the way that one's been moving.
Yeah, that's correct on their final fee.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? I'll check for virtual hands. Trustee Strack?
So on the very first page of that agenda, the second sentence, it says existing wastewater system and 208 service area.
Right.
So I didn't know what that was, so I was asking.
So the 208 service area is an area that's determined, it's a geographic area where the town can service wastewater, service properties with wastewater. And that's an EPA regulation that we're under. And that's our defined service area.
Basically anything in our drainage, I guess.
Similar to that, we can get a map and show you what that area is.
Oh, that's fine. Then my only other question that I really had is on paying this, why is Lock Buoy paying the entire sum? Brighton uses half of our sewer system, and possibly shouldn't some of this cost be coming out of PIFs?
Well, it'll come out of the sewer fund, and it can come out of the PIFs because it's part of the planned investment fee, yes. So Brighton pays to use the wastewater plant, and that's, the companion piece we're doing is our wastewater cost of service study, which will look at the fees that Brighton pays for the treatment of their flows into our wastewater plant. And also Brighton does collect the PIFs for their area that does drain into our wastewater plant. And I think that fund is now about $2 million, which will request a transfer of that to the town. So they are, in a sense, paying for that, for part of that study.
Out of that 2 million, there's still 400 that goes for interest or something?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
So we'll have the net of whatever that amount is.
Okay, perfect. Well, that sounds pretty good. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Checking for further hands. And seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the professional services agreement for a wastewater utility master plan between Aqua Engineering and Martin & Martin and the town of Lock Buoy in an amount not to exceed $155,500.
Second.
I have a motion from Trustee Ott and a second from Trustee Strack. Roll call, please.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Trustee Kimmerly.
Yes.
Trustee Strack.
Aye.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion carries 6-0. The next item on the agenda is action item 7B, ordinance 2020-663. Clerk Blackston.
This is the ordinance regarding the Fair Campaign Practices Act that Maureen and I presented at the last meeting, and there was a couple clerical changes from the one you've seen before, and then I think that was kind of really nothing major. So my recommendation would be that you approve this, and then we would have the process in place in case there were to be any kind of complaints or anything for the Fair Campaign Practices Act. And Maureen, do you have anything else?
Nope, that's it. I think we studied it at the last board meeting, and again, the reasoning for this is that the Secretary of State adopted new rules in August this year that basically put the burden on municipalities to handle their own fair campaign practices, violations, complaints, and so we really have no choice but to put some sort of a process in place, and this process that we're presenting to you as close as we can mirrors the state process. So.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? Checking for virtual hands. And seeing none, it looks like we fully discussed this last time. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve ordinance number 2020-663, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Lochbuie, Colorado, adding new sections to Article 1 of Chapter 2 of the Municipal Code governing elections, concerning applicability and enforcement of the Fair Campaign Practices Act.
Second.
I have a motion from Trustee Ott and a second from Trustee Jeffrey. Roll call, please.
Trustee Strock.
Aye.
Trustee, almost put Morris. Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Kimmerly.
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion carries 6-0. Next item on the agenda is action item 7C, the Coronavirus Relief Fund update. Ms. Rademacher.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees. Before you, you'll see the AIS I prepared regarding the CDRF fund, and that's the money that we received from Weld County for the coronavirus relief. There are several moving parts to this one, and we've spent approximately we spent $50,000 for business relief at this point in time. Page 2 shows the other expenses that we have so far incurred as far as making tele offices and being able to work from home, the legal costs associated with the COVID issues, the IT costs. So the final back page, which is very small print, I realize I can make it bigger. It shows basically everything that we have spent this money on to date. I have put in 3 requests for reimbursements to DOLA. We've received 2 of those so far. My last one I sent in on November the 7th, and I haven't heard anything from them, so I assume no news is good news, and that reimbursement will be approved also. The other big part that we did was the relief program for assistance to residents in Lochbuie. They had to fill out an application, and they were awarded up to $200 per household based on whether it was a COVID-related financial need. As of the writing of this, at the end of October, we had received about 42 applications or 46 applications. Only 4 were denied. We couldn't do a direct tie to a COVID-related incident. They had until November the 12th, I believe, to appeal that decision, and I don't believe we heard anybody appealing the decision for the denials. We did cut the checks for the other approximately 42 residents already, and I think a lot of those have been received by residents at this point. We have received about 6 more applications, and I'm going to be cutting those checks probably this week so that we can get them out to the residents before Thanksgiving next week. And then other than that, the page 2 shows some of the other expenditures that we're looking at doing. We kind of have to get this wrapped up as soon as possible. Weld County's wanting to know how much more we expect in expenditures. We do have quite a bit that we're going to be paying as far as for employee wages. We've had some incidences of employee exposures or quarantines that we've been paying. So that'll be on the next reimbursement request. And the county is wanting all of the municipalities to report back to them by the end of this week as to how much money they expect to spend and how much they expect to return to the county. So we have to kind of get everything wrapped up this week as far as what we're going to do any further expenditures on. So if anybody has any questions, I can answer those at this time.
Okay, I'm checking for virtual hands. Trustee Strack?
Yeah, it's probably a little too late, but I'm kind of reaching out there for something to do with this extra money that could just be given back to the government. That if we could come up with a decent idea, we could use that money right here in Loch Buoy. Is there any way we can set up some type of maybe a, mortgage or rent relief fund or some way to help people with food? I mean, the statistics are just getting worse and worse. It was 25% of the people had food insecurities, and now it's up to 34% now. And I think right along with that, mortgage and rent are going to be the two next big things that are actually going to hit us next year with a lot of the people. So I guess I'm just reaching out and asking if anybody has any ideas of what we could do with this extra money. Over.
Trustee Strack, I think the intent of the resident relief was for that exact purpose. We did send out the postcards to each of the residents. We have put it on the social media sites and the website, and we've reached out to, in every way possible that we know of in order to reach the residents of Loch Buoy to let them know that this program existed. But that was exactly what this resident program was intended for, was to pay for, if they were behind on their mortgages and they were behind on their utilities. And so I had hoped that we would receive more applications, but unfortunately we haven't at this point. We'd like to keep it open until the end of this week. And if we can get more applications between now and Friday, that would be awesome. And we could get the money to the people before Thanksgiving.
Thank you. I'm sure we've tried the best we could. Thank you.
Checking for any further hands. Trustee Westcott?
I think I was having the same thoughts that Trustee Strack was just sort of thinking today, like, that's a lot of money to just give back. And I think I had a couple of ideas. I don't even know if they're possible, but I think that I've mentioned before that I think like event industries have really been hit hard this year. And I just wondered if maybe we could do something sort of as a winter entertainment, virtual entertainment for the town, and we could hire some vendors, I don't know, musicians, magicians, I don't know what else. I know that a lot of people are sort of pivoting their entertainment businesses, trying to make some money virtually. And so I just, that was my thought, Trustee Strack, was could we maybe do something around the holidays as an entertainment, something for the town, but use some of that money to pay for it.
Is that something we could do, Denise?
I don't know if that is something that is an eligible expense to be used, to use that money for. Steve, I don't know if you would know more about that. To me, that doesn't sound like, unless there's a Loch Buoy business, which is why we sent the money to upstate Colorado, that could put on something like that for Loch Buoy. Other than that, I don't know how that would be tied to an eligible expense. So, Steve, you may want to jump in.
And my comment was that I think they should contact the upstate for a business. They are managing the business relief program, and I think their application period expires tonight at midnight, if I remember right. We do have some upcoming expenses for this fund. We're looking at, to get a quote yet on the final IT to improve our remote meeting capabilities with some additional cameras. And we do have, as Denise mentioned, some additional staff wages to cover for a quarantine period or for out of the office due to the COVID program.
Yeah, and those staff expenses don't look small. Any further questions or comments? Checking for hands. And seeing no other ones, I will close this by simply saying thank you for all your work on this, Steve and Denise. Tracking this must have been nothing short of a small nightmare, and you guys have done a phenomenal job making sure that we accounted for everything that we could account for. So thanks for all your work on this. Next item on the agenda. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is action item 7D, resolution 2020-15. Denise.
I'll just briefly. So at our last meeting on October 20th, the board did approve us to send in an exclusion for oil and gas from the 5.5% property tax limit calculation. And so by doing that exclusion, it allows us to capture about $53,000 in property tax revenue from oil and gas. And the DOLA, assuming they approve our request, they do require that we do a resolution to create a separate fund to deposit that revenue in. And that's the purpose of the resolution. And when you will see tonight in our budget work session, there is a separate line item for oil and gas revenue, which we will then transfer into the general fund to use for expenses related to that, such as street maintenance, any additional police services, and also water testing, because we did set up water sampling around that oil and gas site. So that's the purpose of the resolution.
Makes sense. Questions or comments from the board? And seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2020-15, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Lochbuie, Colorado, conditionally establishing a new fund for the purpose of depositing and spending all funds received as a result of the authorized exclusion of the increased valuation for assessment attributable to new primary oil or gas production within the town from any producing oil and gas leasehold or land.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion. Motion from Trustee Att and a second from Trustee Kimmerly. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kimmerly.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Aye.
Trustee Westcott.
Aye.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Strock.
Aye.
Thank you.
And the motion carries 6-0. Next item on the agenda is action item 7E, resolution 2020-16. I think Chief was on, but then I think he dropped off, so this might have to be someone else.
He's here.
Oh, you're back? Go ahead, Chief.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is kind of a formality, I think, with the purchase of the vehicles are already in the budget. So this is just basically approving the lease, the municipal lease purchase for the vehicles through Clayton Holdings.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Checking for virtual hands. And I'm seeing none, so I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the lease purchase agreement as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Trustee Strock and a second from Trustee Ott. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kimmerly.
Aye.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Trustee Strock.
Aye.
Mayor Lofgren. And then I don't know if this needs to include not only the agreement, but resolution 2020-16.
Oh, that's true.
So amended.
Well, okay. So we'll say that was a 6-0 vote on approving the agreement, and then let's do a roll call on the resolution as well.
Do we need to move to approve resolution 2020-16?
I'll accept that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from trustee Jeffrey and a second from trustee Att. Roll call, please.
Yes. Trustee Strock,
Aye.
Mayor Lofgren,
Yes.
Trustee Kimmerly,
Yes.
Trustee Westcott,
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey,
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Aye. Point of order, do we have to add an amount not to exceed $106,809?
We'll accept that as a friendly amendment and put that in there. Unless anyone has any objections, state them now. We have none? Okay. Did you get all the votes, Linda?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so by a 6-0 vote, the resolution 2020-16 is approved, as well as the agreement to purchase the 2 vehicles in an amount not to exceed $106,803. Next item on the agenda is action item 7E, the year-end bonus request. Mr. Stamey.
Thank you, Mayor. So over the past several years, the town has recognized our permanent full-time employees with a small annual year-end bonus of $100. We do currently have 24 full-time employees with 1 employee being hired, so 25 employees. We would like to recommend that we continue that practice this year for an amount of $2,500, with each employee receiving the $100 year-end bonus.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Trustee Strack?
You know, I don't know that it would break the bank. Could everybody get $200 this year, or could they get a COVID day or something? Only my suggestion.
Thank you.
Would that be feasible in the budget this year, Steve?
I think we could probably find that in our budget. Unless
Okay.
Denise jumps in here and says no.
I'm hearing silence from her.
You hear anything?
I move to approve the year-end bonus.
Wait. I have more hands. Trustee Jeffrey?
I was going to say something similar to Trustee Strock. Thank you.
Okay. Any other hands? And then I'll turn to Dave for his motion.
I move to approve the
Wait.
year-end bonus.
Trustee Westcott?
I just would like to add that I think this has been a particularly stressful year for everyone, and the town has had to do town employees have had to do a lot of transitioning and changing and rolling with punches, and I think that's totally a good way to say thank you to them for their efforts.
I concur with that. Okay, now I think that's all our hands. So, Trustee Att.
I move to approve the year-end bonus request by Town Administrator Steve Stamey and amend the amount to $200 per employee.
Second.
I have a motion from Trustee Att and a second from Trustee Jeffrey. Roll call, please.
Yes, Trustee Jeffrey,
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren,
Yes.
Trustee Kimmerly,
Yes.
Trustee Strock,
Aye.
Trustee Westcott,
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Thank you, and thank you for that.
Thank you, board.
Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion item 8A, the discussion regarding our December 1st, 2020 board meeting. And we threw this on there leading up to this meeting. Linda, Steve, Maureen, and I had been discussing what form our December 1st, 2020 board meeting should take. Dave was in on these conversations too. And at our pre-meeting today, it was pretty much the recommendation of staff that we keep that as a virtual meeting. And we'll do the new swearing in of the board and all of that virtually. And then at some point, hopefully next year, when things return to something resembling normal, they'll redo that swearing in ceremony so that the new board members will have an opportunity to do pictures with their families and that kind of stuff that we all like to do when we first get on the board, if it's an option. So the recommendation of staff at this point is to keep that meeting virtual. I'll entertain any questions or thoughts anyone might have on that. I'm looking for hands. And I'm seeing none. Oh, and just to make everyone aware, Mayor-elect Mahoney was also in on the conversation, and he was also in favor of keeping it virtual. So just to throw that out there. And I'm not seeing any hands or objections, so I think we'll go ahead and assume that will be a virtual meeting. Next item on the agenda is staff reports. Chief McCoy.
Well, we're in the sense of trying to keep this short. I really don't have anything to add. If you read the report, I'm happy to answer any questions for everyone.
Any questions? Checking for virtual hands. Trustee Stratt.
I really don't have any questions, but I would like to thank Chief McCoy for his donation to the Knights of Columbus that are going to provide Thanksgiving dinners for Lochbuie citizens this year. Thank you, Chief.
Sure. You bet.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Thank you for your update, Chief. Next update is from Mr. Amy, but I don't believe he's on.
I don't see him on either. There he is. Yeah, he's here.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Wayne. Oh, never mind. He just dropped off.
Okay.
He must be having problems tonight. Anything that you know of, Steve, that we need update on?
I don't at the moment.
Okay. Then I will go to Public Works, Mr. Johns.
I don't have anything other than the report that was given unless anyone has any questions.
Checking for hands. And I'm seeing no hands. Thank you for your update. Next update is from Clerk Blackston.
Same for me. I don't have anything unless, I mean, my report is in the packet, but if you have any questions or anything, I can certainly answer them.
Checking for hands. Trustee Stratt.
Just one on utilities where it said you didn't do any shut-offs because we don't have an employee to do that. Maybe I should go back and ask Mr. Johns about that. Is that something in our budget for next year?
So part of it, so just,
We
I don't,
employ in the budget for next year.
right.
Okay.
We
Thank
had
you.
some people that were out of the office at that time, though.
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons we couldn't do that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and that actually and maybe this is something for discussion with the future board or future meeting, but I'm just curious if there's, with the numbers spiking again, if there's been any thoughts given to potentially putting a freeze on shutoffs again for a while, but maybe that's something better for a discussion item at a future meeting.
We discuss it now? That sounds like a great idea.
Steve or Linda, did you have any thoughts on that?
We haven't discussed this. We could discuss it internally and then I guess advise the board.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best. I'm seeing some hands and I'm guessing it's all people that agree, but I think the board staff needs to evaluate it and kind of let the board know what that would look like before we really have a in-depth discussion of that. But I see that Trustee Westcott has her hand up.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would like to know is, it just seems like after we did that in the summer,
Do we know how many delinquents we did?
sorry, I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say. I'd just like to know if that wound up being a hardship on families because they wound up having huge water bills that they had to pay post the shut-off, what are we going to call that? Post restoration of the shut-off, whatever. And so I think that would be my question is that actually helping families? Because if it is, I'm totally in favor of it. If it's just causing their pain to be pushed down the road, then I'd like to know that.
Okay. And I think that's something for staff to kind of work into their update for as they consider this. Trustee Jeffrey?
I to jump back to the coronavirus relief fund, and I didn't catch everything May was suggesting, but it was something about an event. Could some of the remaining funds go towards covering water bills for folks for the month of December? Or we're not allowed
that
to
is
use
not
the
an
money?
that is not an eligible cost.
Okay. Can you send us a list of what the eligible costs are so we could maybe brainstorm between now and the next meeting?
So can I, not to interrupt, but well, it's true, our next meeting is December 1st. Our shut-offs would be the 9th. So if we could wait till the 1st, but I guess sort of maybe a better idea to have the discussion, so at least get your thoughts, and then as the staff, we can maybe, put our heads together and figure this out as well, but certainly with your input. Our staff up front with the utility billing, we met today and tried to talk about it. We did have delinquent notices sent out today. There was a little over 400, which is a little more than average. It's kind of hard just because, we didn't do last month, which worked out good. And we skipped a few months and that kind of thing. But the other part is like what May had mentioned about prolonging their, if you owe 100 now and then in 3 months you owe 500, if you can't pay 100 now, but then you're going to owe 500, I'm not sure that's helping them. But however you all want to go forward, I think we're about average. If we've been, maybe January might be where we might consider, because, the holidays are coming and people will probably still, try to do something for the families, especially with this type of year we've had. But we can go however y'all want to go. But I'm thinking January may be a little more consideration because they may struggle a little bit more then. So that's sort of my thoughts, and you can share yours and we can figure it out. Or
That's what I was going to say. I think those are all good thoughts, but I tend to agree with Steve. I think this is better for an actual discussion item, either on the next agenda. And I don't know that, given where we are in the building cycle right now, that we're going to be able to do anything for the next immediate shut off. But maybe it's something we look at for January, like you're suggesting. But I think it's better for a discussion item, for a full discussion at a future meeting, especially since we have so much board turnover.
Okay.
And then Jamie had asked about the list of possible expenses for our CARES money. Is that something that's available, Denise? Or Steve?
Yeah, we can find a list.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Questions for clerk? Okay. Mr. Staney?
Mayor and board, if you have questions on my summary report, I would respond to those. Otherwise, we can just move on through the agenda.
Okay. Checking for hands for Steve's update. Trustee Strack?
On the very end of your report, I was asked, just wanted to know what Weld County CDBG was.
That's their Community Development Block Grant Program.
Okay.
And they have about $980,000 that they can use for assistance to various communities in Weld County.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. And the only thing I had, Steve, is more just to highlight, especially for some of our board members that are continuing on into the next couple of years, the BNSF Railway project that is officially looking like it's starting to get legs and moving towards becoming a reality. Keep your eyes on that, guys, because it's something that they've been rumbling about for a while, and it's huge. They're talking about building a giant rail yard not far out of town limits, just to the north of us. So something you're going to keep your eyes on. Not much you can really do about it, but it is a big deal and something to watch for. So anything else, Steve?
That's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Okay. And with that, I will turn to Mayor Trustee comments.
I noticed that Wayne's back on, Mayor, if you wanted to get his report.
I will. Mr. Amy?
Am I that late?
No, you dropped off right as I was calling on you.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was weird. I tried to hurry home to get on, but the link wouldn't work. on my home computer. So then I tried logging in from my remote connection to my office. The only problem is my mic won't work there. So I apologize for that. I was trying to get home so I could do my report instead of being at the office. So, and I apologize for that. So you could see, when the wastewater treatment plant, we're still seeing increased flows from year to year. Brighton flow is showing up. You can see the percentage of what Brighton uses up in our system. It has actually decreased a little bit. Although we have been seeing a higher than normal organic load. So you see we're getting like for this last month, we actually exceeded the capacity for BOD. Now, there's always anomalies from month to month on doing BOD. It's not a real accurate test. The actual test is called a 5-day BOD. So in other words, it takes actually 5 days to incubate the sample before you can get the result. So, there's a lot of variability in those. But nonetheless, you can still see that even with that extra load, our removal percent is 99%. You can't get any better than that. I see that they didn't correct the dewatering information. We actually, and I caught that and I asked Mickey to correct that. We actually did 410,000 gallons, but the 488 tons is correct. So I will get to the first part of the year where we'll have a full year of operation where we can compare cost of having hauling and what it has been since we put the dewatering equipment in. So we, nothing of any, how do I say, anything weird that happened at the wastewater plant. We did have a couple of power outages, but that's normal. The generator kicks on. We still go out and check it just because we want to make sure that even though we see on SCADA it's kicked on, seeing is believing. And so we usually still show up to check that out. The water treatment plant, again, she didn't correct that. Somehow she sent the wrong one. That 21,767 was actually 2019. And 2020, we actually did 31 million. So we went up 10 million gallons even in October from last year. I apologize for the mistakes on the report. I will make sure that doesn't happen again. Again, nothing's going wrong. Everything's working pretty well. We do have almost 2/3 of our lead and copper samples. And lead and copper samples, believe it or not, are the hardest samples to collect. And how that's performed is, we ask residents if they would participate in this sampling program because we as operators are not allowed to take the sample. We try to get the cooperation of a homeowner to take the sample. And how it works is you instruct the resident to say, your sample has to come from a tap that you normally use. Kitchen is usually the best because, people use the kitchen sink all day long and every day. So what we ask is that to take the sample as soon as you get up, where the water has been sitting there in the line for at least 6 hours, or do it when you get home from work and take the sample where there's not been any water use, and then set it out on the porch. And we drive by, and as soon as we see a sample sitting out on the porch, we go grab it. Well, that's difficult because now you're relying on a resident to get, we have to get 60 samples done in 6 months. Like, that doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, to manage the amount to be able to get there. But the good news is it's only mid-November and we got 40 of them done. So I look at it as a win. We're ahead of the ball game than most times. So we move on to the CIP projects. You can see we're still waiting. We'll probably do the elevated tank here in this next year. We rebuilt that pump motor on the RO replacement. We got that done. We did give Steve a quote for doing the high service pump for the distribution pressure. Replace that. We got both tanks clean, and as I think I mentioned last meeting that the corrosion control that we installed, which are the cathodic protection so that those metal tanks don't rust through, they still look like they were 90% pure. So adding the sodium hydroxide to the water, which raises the pH up, actually reduces that corrosion. So the good news is our tanks are in great shape. And we all know that we've got Raftellus. We're collecting data to do the rate study. On the wastewater side, we did get our cleaning and videoing done in April. We did replace the anoxic mixers. We're going to have to push off the weir launders. And the reason at the clarifier at the wastewater plant, the reason is the clarifiers, when they were constructed, between the weir and the wall on our system is about a foot wider than normal. I don't know why they did it that way, but they did it that way. So a normal weir cover won't work on that. So we have to get a special made one in there. And so I got to write a specification that vendors can meet that will work for us. So that, yeah, maybe we may spend a little more for the cover, but the installation is going to go much easier. All right, because that once we install those, that's a forever piece of equipment. We are getting the DO and ORP. We've got the quotes. We will bring back to the board on December 1st for the replacement of those. As you know, we did get the UV system, and we just ordered a bunch of parts that'll run us through for a better part of next year. Our skate upgrades are 99% finished. We're working some bugs out. I would like to say thank you to Steve and Timberland for getting us actually an internet that runs at more than 56K. That sure helped. And we got the air conditioning done at the wastewater plant. The metering station, Brian and I are meeting out there tomorrow to see where the power is, make sure we're going to install it with the right equipment. And then the other stuff, the modular building and paving surface will be pushed off to 2021. And I think tonight we're going to be awarding the wastewater master plan. So we've been busy. I was out there today doing an inspection. I always like going out the day of the board meeting and announce just to see how everybody's doing. And I'm glad to say that the place was spotless. So Brian's doing a great job out there working with 3 old guys. So, I do give it up to him. He's a good hard worker. So I think Mark Johns will attest to Brian's tenaciousness. So that's all I've got. If you guys got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Hey, Wayne?
Yes?
Can I ask one question? We were talking earlier tonight about training with all the new trustees coming onto the board. And I'm just thinking that you would be really valuable to explain sort of 101 lesson on what the water treatment plant looks like and what the wastewater treatment plant looks like, because this board's often called on to make sort of technical decisions, if you will, about upgrades and that kind of thing. And I think some background for the new trustees, maybe even some of the existing trustees, and maybe even like the town's lawyer, just on how those plants operate would be something that would be good to schedule if you're open to that.
Oh, by all means. I mean, I do presentations all the time, Maureen. I just don't want to give you death by PowerPoint. So, or death by bullets, as they actually call it. But I can do a short presentation, you know, and then if anybody would like to do a tour, that would be awesome. I mean, actually seeing it in action, that is actually speaks volumes of what we go through on a day-to-day basis. But I can certainly put a presentation together, you know, 20 minutes tops. I figure, you know, just kind of give it a good brush over. But then as we could spend some time together and walk through the facilities, then you can get through a little more detail. It'll make more sense. Do you know what I mean? Because then you can see it, you can touch it, you can hear it. Except down at the wastewater plant, we don't want you touching nothing down there. But you see what I'm getting at. I mean, You'd be surprised how much even a young person, like a fourth grader, a fifth grader, how they get it when they're on site. And usually when they go home, they usually tell their mom, well, don't flush that down the toilet. And that's the thing we're trying to teach them not to do. So I'd be happy to.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I think Trustee Strack had a question.
Well, I would highly recommend the tour. I think that's the best part. You forgot to say anything about the smell out there.
Well, well, you know, we don't treat roses, Larry, as you well know. But really, in all honesty, we
It's
only
not
have one
bad.
building that smells, and that's where the raw sewage comes in, and that's ventilated very, very well. It's actually where you could. It's not a confined space, so you could actually, if you wanted to, you could hang out in there for hours if you felt like it. But it's not as bad as you might think.
Certainly. Wayne, I'd like to thank you for everything you do for the town, and I'd like to thank you for your generous contribution to Thanksgiving dinners for Lochbuie citizens. Thank you, sir.
You get what you give, Larry.
Yes, sir.
Okay, checking for any further questions or comments from the board. And I am seeing no other hands. Thank you very much for your update.
All right. Thank you.
With that, I'll turn to Mayor Trustee comments, and I'll start with Trustee Kimmerly.
Trying to get my silly button. Two quick things I wrote down so I wouldn't forget. One of them is that the quick one is I had the opportunity to go to the county commissioners dinner a few weeks ago. One major update from the presentation from the commissioners is they're looking on how we regionally work together and do transportation projects. And moving forward, they're going to be looking for a contact from each town or city to help facilitate and improve communication as we move forward and different priorities and ideas are developed. The other quick comment I had is having a couple days off this week. Unusual for me to do that, but being driving around during the day, I noticed yesterday that we had some town employees, and this is not a problem, this is leading to a question, town employees picking up trash. And I know from different places I've lived and different places I get to, I see signs where adopt this road. And my question I throw out is just a thought, and granted, it could be something we discuss in greater detail in the future, the feasibility. Is that anything that we could or should be doing to, one, build connections with different groups in the community or different families members that want to participate or volunteer, but also stretch our resources a little bit too, because there's a lot of roads and a lot of things to cover. So I just throw that out because I don't know what's possible, but I just wanted to put that on a future radar.
Okay, thank you. And I think that probably is a good thing for a future discussion. But if I think Mark might still be on, if he has any quick response to that.
I don't have any response at this time. I just have the guys out right now is an ideal time to kind of go out and trash all of our right of ways, get them cleaned up when it's nice and warm out, so that we can just keep our roadways looking nice. So that's kind of what we're focused on right now with the park mowing obviously not happening.
And
No,
that being called,
I was appreciative of seeing them out there doing it, and I was going down County Road 4, so I know unfortunately there was just way too much for them to pick up.
Yeah, on 4 we found couches, mattresses, all sorts of large things. So yeah, it's taken a little bit longer than we expected, but that's what the guys are out doing right now.
Anything else, Trustee Kimmerly?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Trustee Jeffrey?
I just want to say, as we head into a big transition for our board and for our mayor, how much I have appreciated working with each and every one of you. especially you, Mayor Lofgren, and I wish you and your family well in your future endeavors. And I thank you, all of you, for your service and for our community. So thank you.
Okay, Trustee Ott.
I noticed the other day, we're talking about doing the county road improvements. The water was flowing through the Spear Canal again. I think it's kind of late in the season for that to be flowing. I didn't know what was going on there.
It was probably frack water, Trustee Ott.
Yeah, because the thing was completely full, and I know we're talking about doing the bridge over that deal over the winter. So I just wonder if they're going to stop the flow of water, or what the situation is there.
We'll have to coordinate that with them, but they do have calls for, as Wayne said, for frack water.
Well, that clarifies that. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Strack.
I guess I would make a final thank you to Russ with Safe Build for his generous donation to the Knights of Columbus for Thanksgiving dinners also, in making it possible. And the only other thing I would like to say is I'd like to thank Jacob for his leadership for the past years, and he's done a great job. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Westcott.
Ditto. Just kidding. No, that's really what I wanted to say, is just my thanks to Trustee Strzok. I've mentioned before that I think that you're a great example of someone who has really put a lot of time and effort into being a good guardian for our town, and I really appreciate that as a citizen, and also as someone I can strive to emulate in the future. Mayor Lofgren, I want to thank you for your leadership, and I was just reflecting on the fact that I just think that you've done a lot to engender goodwill in the community, and you've been really responsive to people's questions and concerns, and I think there's a lot of love out there for you. I see it on social media all the time. So I wish you well, both of you, and hope that this is the last we see of you, but thank you.
You.
Yeah. I see the opposite of love sometimes on social media too, so I'll just toss that out there too. I don't have a whole lot tonight. I just have one more meeting, so we'll be here at the start of that December 11th meeting, and that's when I'll say my thank yous and appreciations to everyone. I'm going to pretend like the sad end to all of this 8.5 years of service is not quite as close as it really is. Regarding that December 1st meeting, I just wanted to let everyone know we worked on the agenda today at our pre-meeting. What we anticipate will happen is that the current board, those of us sitting right now, will approve the final budget, and we will approve the mill levies. And then after that, we will have a recognition ceremony for everyone who is outgoing. We will swear in the new board members, and officially after the budget is approved, the new board will take over, and they'll be good to go for the next 2 years or 4 years, depending on what you've been elected for. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn into our work session.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned at 7 p.m. There is a separate Zoom link for the budget on the board to attend, but elect White, if you would also like to attend that, you can actually actively participate in that since it is just a work session. Thank you.